Hey everyone, welcome back to Mind Keys. My name is Dave, and we're going to be talking about the importance of being social when using psychedelics. So, for those of you who didn't see my last video, I'll leave a card above. But basically, in the last video, I started to introduce this idea of the social brain and the importance of accessing the social brain to co-regulate, to self-regulate, to unload and offload stress, trauma, anxiety, fear, and how important that is as part of your personal growth path, part of your personal healing path, if you will. Along with that, I decided I'm kind of just batch shooting videos here. So I decided to switch shirts, kind of switch things up a little bit and try to capture another, kind of off the cuff riff here for you. So if that's something you're interested in, watch on. I've got some, great personal history with this. So there'll definitely be some, some insights here for you. Real quick though, for anyone who doesn't know me, my name is Dave. I'm a coach. I'm a hypnotherapist, an NLP practitioner. I've been coaching for about 6.5 years. I tend to work with people in the psychedelic space rather right now. It's kind of my area of passion, my area of interest. It's kind of what I'm up to working on. So I coach people. I do a lot of integration work. I do a lot of kind of also leveraging what I'm calling resourcing work. That'll be another video where we take these kind of peak experiences that we have on psychedelics and we take the energy and the insights and just the sensations and the kind of resources within these experiences and we plug them into your daily life so that we help you to rewire your brain around the kind of areas where you might need it the most, whatever struggle, challenge, or problem that is, so you can really transform your life. So those are kind of the main pieces of work I do. And I am a psychonaut by history. I've been, using psychedelics since I was a teenager. I'm in my mid 40s now, so that's 30 years. And I am passionate about the topic. I'm super interested. It's what drove me to get into hypnosis and hypnotherapy and study NLP and study personal development. And, so there's a lot of that here on this channel. So if that's your thing, welcome, honored to have you. Please do a favor and kind of, settle in, take a listen, and enjoy the talk here. Okay. So like I said, this is going to be off the cuff, kind of just going. I'm a little bit tired. I'm a little bit groggy. I'm a little bit unfocused, but hopefully I can deliver something of value here for you in this talk as well. So I've been thinking a lot about the things, I grew up, I'm mid 40s, so I'm Gen X. I grew up a teenager and a high schooler in the mid 90s. And then at that time, psychedelics were kind of having a renaissance and a resurgence. I grew up from kind of a hippie mother, so I grew up with Eastern spirituality around me. So I picked up meditation really early, really young. I got into psychedelics with my buddies in high school and started taking them, started having really profound experiences. And that led me into kind of getting involved in, this path of awakening, meditation, studying Eastern spirituality. I was also a musician, still am. So that got me into music culture and kind of pursuing that. So that led me down into obviously like the Grateful Dead, Pink Floyd, Fish kind of hippie thing. That of course led me, not necessarily, led me into electronic music, festivals, festival culture, all of that. So I basically spent from 20, even younger really, but really from like 20 to like my mid 30s, like a solid 15 years in the festival scene. I was a DJ, I was a producer. I've been to Burning Man a bunch of times. I've been to a bunch of the smaller West Coast festivals a bunch of times. I did Fish tour before that. So, followed Fish around the country, taking psychedelics at Fish shows. And then got involved, settled down in a community, in a town where there is a culture around psychedelics and around awakening and spirituality and all that. And, just tons of festivals. I've logged so many hours in kind of social environments, music, dancing, friends, people, lights, sound, whatever craziness going on, camping, whatever it happens to be, your clubs or whatever it is, on psychedelics, on MDMA, on LSD, on mushrooms, whatever it is. And obviously in these kinds of settings, these kinds of festivals and scenarios, most other people are on them too. Shocker for anyone who's not, you know, experienced in the, you know, the Grateful Dead scene or the Fish scene, the jam band scene, or the, you know, rave scene or the festival scene. A lot of those people are high on psychedelics. I would wager the majority, way more than 50%, are high on psychedelics, you know, at some point over the event. So you're around a lot of other people who are also psychedelic. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because right now psychedelics are having very clearly a kind of a renaissance, you know, another renaissance, a kind of a growth in popularity as the science comes out that kind of says how healing they are, how powerful they are for personal growth, for personal transformation, for resetting the brain, for clearing, you know, anxiety, depression, all this. For anyone who's been kind of in that world and taken psychedelics themselves, they know this firsthand, but it's great to have the science validating this, right? So I've been in this world for a long, long time. And the reason I'm bringing this up, that's what I was saying, is that now we have this culture of people growing up online. We have this culture of younger people, you know, Gen Z, you know, and millennials who spend more time, you know, on Reddit, spend more time, you know, on different, you know, boards, you know, than they really do socializing. And a lot of these people, of course, hear of, you know, because now we have, you know, memetics, we have viral ideas. One of the memetics that travels through the internet, especially now with all the science around it, is psychedelics. So we have this huge influx of new people coming to the psychedelic space who maybe are undereducated about it. A lot of whom are probably young and maybe a little reckless or a little impulsive, or just, you know, in that kind of young phase of wanting to get outside of their own mind because they don't, you know how to cope or deal with or have a satisfactory experience of their day-to-day life and their day-to-day nervous system. Or they're just curious. They just want to, you know, push something extreme, and psychedelics are, you know, reasonably safe in terms of drugs go. So they want to take them and have these crazy, wild experiences. Who doesn't want to have some sort of exotic experience of their own consciousness? Like believe me, I understand the appeal. But with that comes a shut-in culture. With that comes in a lot of people who aren't very skilled socially, to be frank, and, you know, struggle with, you know, just kind of normal interacting. So they would feel comfortable flexing online and showing off and, you know, having a dope Instagram or a dope TikTok. They would be comfortable, you know, learning about all this stuff, and they read all this stuff and it sounds great, but they don't have any context for psychedelic culture or what it's like to be social in psychedelics. So they're taking psychedelics by themselves at home, maybe small groups with a couple people. And that's really the context they have around psychedelics. Now, let me say up front that I'm somebody who very early on found that I'm an introvert. I was raised as an only child, so I'm well adapted to being alone and being by myself, comfortable with that, often preferred it, especially when I was younger. And so I'm somebody who did really well taking psychedelics by myself. I still do. I'm fine with it. I can take them. I can get, you know, pretty far out there, and I have the tools and the ability to cope and feel very safe and feel very comfortable and really enjoy it. So for me, that's something I know is possible. It's something that I know I like. And so don't get me wrong. I'm not poo-pooing that or saying that you shouldn't do that or that that's not valid or that's not healthy. It totally can be. But the point I want to make is that, like I said in my last video, which I should have linked by this point if I didn't before, there is a healing in being social. It brings out a different part of you. It brings out different aspects of your personality. It helps you to explore new parts of yourself, and it helps you to offload stress. It helps you to offload trauma and get present. So you get outside of your own story. You get outside and beyond whatever your hangups are. I found that when I'm alone a lot, I tend to go inward, and I know how to kind of let go of my stories and move deeper inward. But for a lot of people, they tend to just go into their own stories when they're by themselves. So one of the major values of being social on psychedelics is it helps you to like tune into what's going on around you and let go of your own stories for a while and just enjoy and explore whatever the environment has, whether you're just on a hike with some buddies and you took a bunch of mushrooms and you're just laughing and cracking jokes and, you know, exploring things, or whether that's at a festival and there's a sound system and you're just like going off in the music and all your friends, or, you know, whatever that might be, whatever the environment that you've taken psychedelics in. When you're social, it allows you to kind of get outside of your trip, outside of yourself, outside of your like ego game, and move into the environment and explore, which is in and of itself regulating and healing. There's a bunch of other stuff too. Because psychedelics tend to decondition us from the pattern that we grew up inside of, and if you've never taken a psychedelic, a lot of times you don't even realize that you grew up inside a certain behavioral, mental, emotional kind of matrix or pattern that's been locked into place in your nervous system. So, you know, things like, what are the places you don't give yourself permission to be that other people are very free about? You know, things like, you know, do you let yourself dance? Do you let yourself emote or not? Are you stoic? Are you rigid? Do you allow yourself to laugh and have fun and be lighthearted? Do you allow yourself to be deep and profound and poignant? Do you allow yourself to be, you know, what is your personal flexibility in modes of being, in modes of operating? These are things that if you've never taken a psychedelic, you may not notice, because you start to confuse your conditioning with who you are. And it's not until you have a little spaciousness and a little fluidity and a little flexibility, which psychedelics tend to do to people, that you start to notice the difference between your default mode conditioned patterning and then how all the other modes that you're capable of being, or capable of exploring at the very least. And instead of becoming threatening or overwhelming, which they still can be on psychedelics, they're much less so. And this is another way that, you know, being psychedelic in a social setting is, I think, very powerful. I had a lot of experiences. I kind of was with this very deep, you know, robust community of artists and creatives and musicians and fashion designers and scenesters and sound systems and DJs. And, you know, I know a lot of people who became very famous and kind of blew up in that whole world. And so there was this kind of very like accelerated, exaggerated culture that of our thing that we were pushing, that we were expanding, you know, and really creating a new kind of avant-garde, a new cutting edge of style, of culture, of, you know, whatever this was. And it was very much born out of psychedelic experiences and festival culture and sound system culture and electronic music. And a lot of that came from people getting together, you know, to go dance, taking psychedelics, and then mutually in the presence of each other becoming a little bit more experimental with their behavior. Not in any sort of like sociopathic, dangerous way for the most part, but just, you know, trying new things on, trying on new ways of being social, maybe being forward with flirting, maybe dancing for people who don't dance, maybe dressing in a new way for people who are kind of reserved in how they dress, maybe whatever, you know what I mean? Maybe experimenting with their sexuality in different ways, whatever it is, people just generally, you know, playing with new modes of being. And this is something that, you know, when you have other people doing that around you, it encourages you to do the same thing. When other people are working to free themselves up and try new things out and be wild and be freaky and be fun and explore themselves and explore each other, when you see that, it gives you unconscious permission to do the same. And as that happens, everyone starts just kind of unpacking their conditioning, unpacking their trauma, unpacking their fears, but also unpacking their beauty, unpacking their hidden potentials, unpacking their joy, unpacking, you know, their excitements and, you know, their drives and their curiosities. And in a group with everyone doing that together, magic happens. Beautiful, synchronistic, unexpected, miraculous, healing, positive things happen that are, you know, I mean, if you're into psychedelics and you've read any of the kind of trip reports or psychedelic therapy reports of people having breakthroughs at home by themselves, imagine a group of people having breakthroughs together. It's insane. It's amazing. I personally feel like it's one of the most profoundly beautiful, important, renewing things that you could possibly do as a human being. We can think of that as collective ecstasy, collective, group ceremony, collective celebration. These kinds of things are very, underutilized, underexplored in our culture, and are obviously a part of human history, part of how we've done things in the past, and we're built for it. We're wired for it. And so it's amazing to see what happens, and to discover who you are in that context and what you're capable of, and how other people pushing their own boundaries inspires you to push your own boundaries, to grow and evolve and change and resolve and heal in a way that you probably wouldn't have occurred to you if you were just shut in by yourself, only doing psychedelics by yourself, only, opening up and exploring. There's a whole other thing that happens. And so I just kind of want to bring this up because I feel like as the psychedelic community, in 2021, the 2020s, expands and evolves and grows, and you have all these people who kind of grew up with internet culture and aren't really that used to just, letting go and deconditioning, because now we have the phone, we have the computer, we have all these things around us that are portals into not really reality or the world, but social media at very least. And social media being this weird distorted lens, this weird mirror we look at, but it's a conditioning lens. It's not something that helps you decondition. Social media, generally speaking, conditions you further. So we're taking in conditioning information all the time that is just twisting us and slowly shaping us and making us more whatever, insecure or desirous or unhappy or dissatisfied or indignant or whatever emotion it's feeding in you on that particular day. All of that is conditioning. And if you're by yourself taking psychedelics, maybe a lot of people seem to be having breakthroughs and realizing that that's conditioning, but it's a whole nother level to then experience that in a group setting. So I'll give a couple examples and I'll kind of wrap this video up because I've already kind of gone a little bit longer than I expected, but I just kind of want to share about this and talk about this because I think it's so important. It's so important to have a sense of community or a sense of what the human being is, the social animal that we are, not in a rigid, socially conditioned way. When you're just dealing with the raw life intelligence of being a human being, what is that like in a group setting with a bunch of other people doing the same thing? What is that like? What do you learn about human nature? What do you learn about yourself? What do you learn about, all kinds of different social dynamics that happen? It's so educational. It's like nutrient dense in terms of wisdom of relationship. There's so much there. And it can be a lot. It can be overwhelming. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to say it's always easy or comfortable or fun, but I do think it's incredibly valuable and important and empowering. I want to give you a couple examples, like I just said, of a couple different ways that I've had some of the most profound experiences of my life in group settings on psychedelics. So the first one I want to talk about is actually my first Grateful Dead show back in the day. And I get it. Not everyone likes the Grateful Dead. You probably don't. No offense taken. I was, at one point, like a very hardcore, serious Deadhead. And I went to see the Dead before Jerry died. And so this is old school, actual Grateful Dead, not Dead & Co. And I ended up getting, super high on psychedelics. I ended up taking, what was it? I think I took, so I took half an eighth of mushrooms, and then we met some kind of tour hippie, and he squirted a bunch of liquid into me and all my friends, mouths. We don't know how many, maybe like 10 hits apiece, like a lot. So I was very, very high for my first Grateful Dead show, right? And I knew the music pretty well. And they were playing a song that I knew really well. And I'm inside the show. And I'm, just having a great time, being a hippie, dancing around. And there's a point in the show where I'm just like feeling the energy. I'm just feeling the vibe of all these happy people around me. And I feel so good. I just want to kind of open up my mouth and just shout to the roof in joy, right? I'm just feeling just exuberant, right? And I go to open my mouth. And by the way, the music is just kind of in this groove. It's in a pocket. There's no solo going on. There's no crescendo in the music. There's no peak happening necessarily. It's just a moment of them kind of playing and grooving. And I go to open my mouth, and I kid you not, at the exact same time I go to open my mouth and shout in joy, the whole arena erupts in joy. Just all at once, for no reason, in the middle of a groove where there's no peak happening, or no beginning, no ending, no peak, no crescendo, no guitar solo, just a moment of collective joy, right? So that for me was a tip off to what we could call a group mind experience. And that's something we can talk about in other videos, but that was my first moment of really feeling connected to a collective of like-minded, like-hearted individuals in a way that I'd never experienced before. And to feel, 20,000 people erupt in joy at the same time, I realized it was something moving through me that wasn't just about me. It wasn't just personal. It was a collective thing that, that moved through me. And that experience was an experience of joy and celebration of life, right? So that's one example of something you're not going to get if you're, taking psychedelics by yourself at home. Another example, kind of more extreme example of that, is going to Burning Man. So, I went to Burning Man. I think I've been like 7 or 8 times at this point. And, my first time there, I think it was 2003, I want to say. And Burning Man is essentially a city, a psychedelic city of psychedelic art and music for people on psychedelics, built by people on psychedelics, generally being run, by a lot of people who are high. I mean, not completely, but largely so. Some burners might be mad at me for saying this, but this is how I see it. This is my experience of it. And so you're talking about a city of, at that time, it's gotten bigger since, 70,000 people, give or take, all spending a week outside of the social conditioning narrative, social conditioning box of the 9-to-5 work week, and, all the laws and regulations of a city. And you just have this kind of free form, everyone going wherever they want to go, doing what they want to do, expressing, exploring, interacting, and really just kind of free to be however you want to be, to do whatever you want to wear, whatever you want to wear, sleep whenever you want to sleep, go wherever you want to go, climb on whatever you want to climb on within reason. There are places where you're restricted, but generally it's very free. And what you start to realize is that it's this giant 70,000 person group mind experience of people just exploring and experiencing all the different facets of this one common location throughout the week, throughout the night and the day and the dusk and the dawn. And it creates this kind of field, this like shared reality, the shared experience of freedom and exploration, inner and external, that you just don't get in the default world. And people self-express in whatever way they want to. People will, insult you for no reason, for self-amusement. People will, have sex in public just because they can. People, whatever, anything goes, right? And so you get so used to it by the end of the week of just seeing people be themselves, just do what it is they want to do, say what they want to do, act the way they want to act, explore, try different things out, play. And you get the sense of what, like a world full of adults in particular, who aren't necessarily tied down to, your average kind of, work week, work life, what they might behave like in a place where they're free to play too, where they're free to explore, where they're free to do what they want to do as well. What can kind of emerge out of that? And there's just so many, in a week at Burning Man, there's so many moments of synchronicity and magic and meaning and deep, profound things happening and just spontaneity. It's just, there's nothing like it. And yeah, that's just something you're never going to get from taking psychedelics by yourself or in super small groups, you know? So super small groups, still very valuable. You and a partner, you and a best friend, still super valuable. Some of my most healing experiences have just been me and a friend. Maybe we're having conversations, just kind of like walking and talking, you know, and just tripping and on a hike and just, you know, riffing about life, which is also profound. And the more you kind of add people in a safe container in the right space where you feel good, again, set and setting is key with psychedelics. Wild, beautiful, incredible things can happen, you know, when we all step outside of the conditioning field together. So I just want to kind of put that out there for you and kind of share my experiences with that a little bit and say that the lessons that I've learned from these experiences are so different and so unique. You know, the things I've learned about human nature, the things I've learned about hierarchy and status and, you know, appearance and dress and the way people are judgmental and reactivity between people and sexuality and friendship and, you know, male-female dynamics and, you know, self-regulation, you know, taking care of yourself, self-maintenance, all these kinds of things. There's all these lessons that you get doing psychedelics in a social setting that don't necessarily come up in the same way when you're by yourself. So just want to put that out there for you, food for thought. As our psychedelic culture moves forward, you know, as it becomes more popular, as more people try them out, I do think it's important to have safe spaces where people can collectively celebrate, where people can collectively experience each other in a deconditioned state. I think there's a value there that you're not going to get from, you know, just being by yourself. And I also think there's a value, you know, on the flip side of learning how to trip by yourself and be by yourself, whether, you know, that's, you know, like closed eyes, you know, blindfold music, you know, the whole Terence McKenna thing, no music, or, you know, music doing the psychedelic therapy thing. That's all super valuable too and super important. And I think if you're interested in psychedelics, if you're exploring this as a psychonaut, you really want to be having both types of experiences. So that's kind of my riff, my ramble on that. I hope you got something out of it. I hope that's interesting to you. If it is, do me a favor and, you know, comment down below. Let me know, you know, what your experiences of being social in psychedelics has been. Let me know if it's something you're interested in but haven't really experienced yet, or, you know, the other way around. If you're experienced in kind of doing the internal thing by yourself and you've only been kind of social and, you know, psychedelic in social settings. Let me know what works for you, what's been meaningful to you. I would love to know more about you. And thanks for watching. Big love to you all, big respect to you all, and I'll have new videos for you soon. All right, thanks.